Tony, Jeremy, have you ever heard of Dukes of Hazzard, the television show? Is that something that you're familiar with in any way?
Yeah, there's a car. They drive around in the car. There's Daisy Dukes.
Short shorts?
Right.
Say Drewski.
Just the good old boys.
General something? General something?
From like the 40s.
Well,
Lee.
I'll tell you what General was. It wasn't one on the winning side.
Stars and bars.
The General Lee is
Yep.
what the name of the car was. You guys want to guess at the height of that show's popularity? Because I was just thinking about this weekend because I had not realized that this show was this popular. It was the first television show that I watched with any regularity back when there were only 3 networks and it was on Friday night. You laugh, you think I'm the only one watching. 1 in 3 American televisions were tuned into that show. It was 40 million people were watching that show at its height. What is the closest thing today that could come to that that's not the Super Bowl? Like what exists anywhere in our fractured television landscape that would come close to being even half that?
NFL Week 7.
Marlins baseball.
Yeah. Okay. Any serious answers? Because sports, outside of sports, is there such a thing? Is that time?
K-pop Demon Hunter.
Is that thing so dead? Is that time so dead that it's not possible given, like, what is the most watched television show right now? Because you have to appeal to everybody with network television, with free television. It almost can't be a streaming show because there are too many people in the country that don't have money and just have the regular channels.
Right. Like you basically described it. We'll never have TV show ratings like that again for TV shows because there used to be 3 networks. And that's it. And you either watch it or you turn the TV off. And now there's just beyond how many channels and how many streaming platforms there are so many more entertainment. I mean, look, if I'm on YouTube or if I'm on TikTok or Instagram, I'm not even consuming produced content.
But if you had to choose a modern day equivalent of, because Game of Thrones felt a little bit like this in that people had to watch it live, didn't want to watch it 3 days later. It was sort of appointment viewing. But I think HBO still, even Max, I think it's still too much premium television. What would be the thing today that would pass for what it is that was? And what would that number be? It's not even 10 million, right? The Walking Dead had some of this. Yellowstone had some of this. But it wouldn't even be 10 million, correct? It wouldn't even be a fourth of what it is I'm talking about.
The Bluey episode with Mickey Mouse, that was
That's
a crossover.
big. Yep, that's big.
I think it had like 10 million viewers.
Beats all you ever saw, got in trouble with the law since the day they was born.
So they were getting chased around by somebody? Like, what was the story?
They ran out of storylines, really, very early.
I can explain it pretty easily, Tony. They were in a small town in rural Georgia. And they were kind of like good-natured, mischievous guys. They get in trouble, but not any real trouble. And they would kind of solve some mysteries and stuff. But also, there's a guy in town called Boss Hog. He's kind of the boss hog of town. He didn't like them. And their cousin, Daisy,
Jessica
worked at
Simpson.
a bar. Yeah, there you go.
Did you see, Tony, did you ever see Smokey and the Bandit? It was all playing off of that conceit.
No, did not see that conceit.
Boy, we are playing young today.
Purdue was a number 1 seed as
Kirk Cousins look like J.C. Penney.
Looks like it's back, Jack. It's bracket time, so make a chart. Does Jeff Van Gundy look just like the Queen of Hearts? Does Adam Silver look like a torpedo bat? Let's get Mark Sadness back on track. Looks like it's back, Jack. When the donuts are in front of you, does Andy Reid say, don't mind if I do? Adam Silver looks like a Q-tip thing, or frying a bag of onion rings. When Timmy laughs until he hacks, that's how you know that looks like his back, Jack. Let me hear you say, looks like his back, Jack. Let's keep on doing it every year. So Edinburgh says, Mr. Bond, welcome to Tangier. Jeff Fisher looks like shotgunning beers at a NASCAR track. If you say this game's the best, I'll say it's a gag. Looks like his back.
Northwestern is gone from the tournament.
Jim Harbaugh looks like a casket salesman.
Fairleigh Dickinson, 16 seed, rep by
Mike McDaniel looked like a college student on a full ride scholarship for esports.
What a run.
Looks like his back, Jack.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Is there anything better in the history of sports than Duke choking? And I think it goes for the entirety of my lifetime. Like, Alabama's a bit of a Johnny-come-lately in football. Duke, 20 years before that, before Nick Saban, before Alabama football, 20 years before that, everybody was rooting for Duke to choke. That team is good enough. It should be unbeaten. Like, that team shouldn't have lost a game this season. That team has 2 unfathomable losses on its resume. The same. North Carolina did the same thing to them that UConn just did, where UConn's 1 for 18 from 3 and wins a game because they go whatever it was, 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6 from 3 at the end after starting 1 for 15. But, I mean, you're a veteran sports observer. Give me something that American sports fans enjoy more than Duke specifically choking, not just losing, choking up and down. You can put the pictures up of John Shire. You can put the pictures up of stunned people because you do not expect that game to go that way. Braylon Mullins became a household name and became a household name for all time for taking that shot. A team, again, that started 1 for 18 from 3. What would you guys nominate for things that American sports fans enjoy more than Duke choking?
Cowboys doing anything bad. Anytime anything bad happens to the Cowboys, everyone takes great delight.
Man, I think Duke is even bigger and badder because the Cowboys, for all that they are, they don't give off we're smarter than you. They may give off, the fan base may give off that we're better than you, but not we're smarter than you.
Yankees choking. When the Yankees choked in 2004, that was like world-renowned. Thank God the Yankees choked.
Again, good nominees, but no school or no entity has what this thing does, which is an elitist. We're more educated than the people who are rooting for our demise.
Nobody's better than our idea.
The old, you're going to work for us one day or whatever, right? That's the crowd that Duke has. I'm trying to think. No, I don't know.
I see the game you're playing. Harvard.
Yes, it's the same. Yes, it's
Yale.
If Harvard were good at sports, that's what it is. If Harvard were good at sports and they gave off that they were smarter than you, and at the end you're making fun of them because they look like they're not smarter than you. At the end there, when you've got 2 people down the court, 2 Duke Blue Devils down the court, you legitimately could have just thrown the ball up straight in the air toward one of them, and you would have had a better result than the one that you had.
Dan, let me ask you this question, because you are obviously the elder statesman in the room. My memories of Duke start with Grant Hill and Christian Laettner, and that's where I learned to hate them. Really, Christian Laettner is what we're talking about. Pre-Christian Laettner, did people hate Duke like that?
It was J.J. Redick, Christian Laettner, Gene Wojciechowski, the slapping of the court. Steve, excuse me. Yeah, Gene was the ESPN guy.
Yeah, I didn't hate this Duke team all that much. I can't really put my finger on why exactly, but perhaps it's because they're lacking the annoying white guy. I just love that we really showed Duke a lesson with those kids from Connecticut.
That's a good point. All those stores, have you ever been to stores?
Sadly.
Like, Tony, explain what stores is like, because people think Connecticut and think, oh, yeah.
They think Greenwich.
Country clubs,
Yeah,
Greenwich.
it's
like
not Greenwich.
Sweaters around your shoulder, and let's go play some tennis. And all that. That's not what stores is like.
I love, the state of Connecticut. I had a great time there. When you get to Hartford, you hear Hartford, you're like, oh, wow. And then you get there, you're like, oh, wow. Ugh. And the stores, not much better.
Do you know how hateable you have to be as a franchise for people to like that Dan Hurley won?
Yes. That's a good point.
I was so excited to watch Dan Hurley have to react to Duke's whistle. and that delivered immediately. I saw a video of him going head-to-head, not figure. Someone help me out with that word. It was
Figuratively.
was
literally. It was
it was a NASCAR Sunday, so I don't want to venture too deep into that word. But yeah, he went head-to-head with an official. I've never seen that before. He was pushing his forehead into the Stripes' forehead, kind of like telling him, like, where's that Duke whistle right now?
Dan Hurley was overjoyed, and he's done enough winning recently that I don't believe too many people outside of Stores and Connecticut are very happy for him. Locally here, the Marlins have started 3-0, and they've got a chance to start 6-0 because they are starting with two of the worst teams I've ever seen over the last 2 years.
No, he's right.
I'm not trying to diminish the Marlins' best start in 17 years. The way they won yesterday was cool and exciting, and they haven't started. They've only started 3-0 3 times in their history. They've won 2 championships. They've only started 3-0 3 times in their history, and the last time they did it was 2009. So doing it against anybody matters, but now they have the White Sox, and I'm not kidding you when I say the White Sox 2 years ago and Colorado last year are 2 of the worst baseball teams I've ever seen. They've got them at home. They have a chance to start 6-0 because those are terrible teams. The White Sox lost all 3 games this weekend, correct, to Milwaukee? They gave up like 8 runs yesterday in the 8th inning to lose.
Yeah, but they got that Japanese guy, though, Dan.
Ooh, Munetaka Murakami. He's a stud. He's hit a homer in all 3 games, but they're going to waste his career because the White Sox are a disaster. Marlins probably going to start with 2 series wins. Might be 5-1, might be 6-0, and then they head to the Yankees in New York. That'll be a fun little weekend series.
Do you guys miss the days when interleague was like a special thing that happened like deep into the season? Like, guys, we're going to have NL teams play AL teams. Like, oh! Now it's just like, yo, your 3rd series of the year, you're playing the Yankees? You've cheapened it.
Yeah, the Yankees starting in San Francisco was a little odd. Jeremy, I don't know if we're at the point yet with the Marlins where we can just start counting games as dubs, but it was a really exciting weekend, and yeah, they've had a friendly schedule here, but especially when it comes to you forecasting wins, given what we saw yesterday from the Miami Heat, I'm not sure we can do
what?
that.
I really don't know what you're talking about.
We'll get
There's
to
another
them
sport?
in a second, and we will talk about that loss. That game was 79-75 at the half. It wasn't that long ago that the Heat were playing the Knicks in games that was the final score in. Playoff
Overtime?
games. 79-75 in overtime. That was the score yesterday at the half. But I want to talk about what Owen Cassie did yesterday because the Marlins ended up
It's
being
Casey. It's budding superstar. Just letting you know.
I want to talk about what he did to end the game because he does a walk-off homer, and I know all of his nicknames because Tommy Hutton gave me all of his nicknames in trying to search for the emotion of talking about what the walk-off sounded like. But let's go through some calls here from announcers in both languages talking about how that game ended with a walk-off homer. They had nobody on base. They got a double because Sanoa ends up hitting a ball in the gap, and the left fielder takes a bad track on it, and then they get a home run to end the game. But let's hear some of these calls.
He's trying to salvage the series. Casey swings. Casey hits it in the air. Casey to deep right. We're going home!
The rest of that, you'll hear them go, the Maple Masher, the Big Canadian, Big Red. Is he an OG? Is he a ginger? Does he classify?
Oh, no, yeah. He's a ginger.
Okay.
Maybe the
Max
second.
Meyer, half ginger.
Interesting.
Casey, ginger.
Casey might be the second greatest left-handed hitting ginger of all time behind Freddie Freeman.
1-0 pitch. Casey launches high in the air at the right. It is gone! You can't make this up! The Maple Masher secures the sweep! And for the first time since 2009, the Marlins start a year 3-0!
How do you guys feel about the Maple Masher as a nickname?
Oh, that's a good one, Dan.
I don't think that the group. Look at Amin's face. Does Amin's
You don't like
face-
Maple Masher?
Does Amin's face give off to you that he thinks that's a good nickname?
It's a placeholder. Like, I like it as like, okay, this is what we'll do for now until we find something better. Big Canadian, terrible.
How do you like Big Red?
My daughter
little
said
overdone.
baby ginger.
He's giant.
I know,
Ginger
but
Spice?
She called him, so that's what I'm calling
But
him.
why, baby Ginger?
Because he's a young kid. He just came up.
Also, it's a child that came up with it. Like, let's not. Oh, that's terrible. She'll never do copy for us.
Mike Ryan mentioned the San Francisco Giants and the Yankees playing. Are you aware that in the history of baseball, there has not been a more anemic start to an offensive season than what the Giants did against the Yankees? The Yankees' rotation is going to be good this year, but the Giants got shut out in the first two games and had fewer than 10 base runners, and then had an outburst on the third day. They had a run. They got a run. That's the worst. That's the worst the season's ever started offensively for a team, to start with a couple of shutouts, and they got their first two base runners of the season on, and then the rest of the time they got nobody else on base.
It's crazy to think that they had the worst weekend offensively when the White Sox became the first team in baseball history to strike out 20-plus times and lose by double digits on opening day to the Brewers. 20-plus strikeouts on opening day.
Let me hear the call in a different language.
Los Marlins no se dan por vencidos. Suéname el gallo, por favor. Ya se prepara otra vez. El empate está en segunda. Lanzamiento, le tira y saca un batazo alto, largo para el right field. Que sí, que no, que no, que sí. Adiós, mamacita linda. Honrón de Owen Casey.
The rooster sound in the middle of that.
I was like, that was confused.
He asked for that.
Apparently, Tony says in the sound he asked for it.
He does ask for it, but if he had not asked for it, I would have accused everybody involved there of racism, just for throwing a rooster into the call to make it just a little bit cheaper.
It's something that I would imagine that they do on The Simpsons, where the Spanish bumblebee is calling the game, right? He just have a rooster right there, and then he call it, and then it would make the sound.
It confused Jeremy and I before the show. We're like, wait, is this like someone's editing this in?
It's a drop.
I don't want to get too serious here with something that people really have fun with, but to have as the greatest form of Hispanic representation anywhere, not in sports media, but anywhere on national television, be Jimmy Kimmel's sidekick. As Guillermo's role. What do you mean? That's
not the height of Spanish representation.
That is the height. It's certainly on late night.
Mario Lopez exists, man. We live in a world with Mario Lopez.
I mean, do we not have a month's worth of Super Bowl halftime discourse? I don't think Guillermo's moving the needle the same way.
Andy
as
Garcia's
Benito.
been on the show 27 times.
What about Domino?
I'm talking about daily television show, again, network television, the stuff we were talking about with Dukes of Hazzard being on 1 out of 3 American televisions at one point. Network television still matters. I know we're trying to eradicate it, but it hasn't given up it has not given up its strength just
We
yet.
get one more Dukes of Hazzard reference for the rest of the year, so let's be judicious.
That is not my voice. That is your voice talking to me, telling me what to do.
Kids, man. We gotta reach these kids.
I will be happy to let the inner monologue speak for me
Let's
as
talk
soon
about
as
the
it
Drewski
starts
bit.
representing my thoughts instead of yours. Like if you
Stop talking to me. It's not funny that
I'm
way.
not going to stop talking to you.
Stop.
I'll stop
I
talking
speak
to
for the
you.
audience.
I'll
I don't
stop.
even speak for you. I speak for the
well, then
audience.
get a different voice to do that. I don't want to argue with my inner monologue when it's not behaving as my
Smokey
inner
and the
monologue.
Bandit killed.
Dan's on the street corner right now, just having an argument by himself.
The inner monologue voice has to be
The Guillermo thing was
my
borderline offensive.
secret thoughts, not you speaking for the audience. That's
I
not
think
what it
Pat
is.
Bunny is bigger
That's
than
not
Guillermo.
what it is. It's the inner monologue is my private doubts and thoughts. That is not just you saying whatever you want about Dukes of Hazzard. Telling me I've got a rule as to how many more times I can reference it the rest of the year.
That was
That's
it.
not my voice.
Yeah,
I can
you used
reference
them
it
up.
as much as
No
I
more
want.
Dukes of Hazzard.
It's the
You
first
used them up.
television show I ever
You're
watched.
out. You're out.
I'm not out. You don't decide this.
How did we land on Dukes of Hazzard as a topic for today?
Hey, you be easy. You get 2 more.
Is it because Duke lost? Is that why?
Oh,
No.
that's why.
Yeah,
No.
you saw Duke lost, and you were like,
Duke,
oh,
no.
remember that show? How quaint.
What a hazard that was to let that guy shoot that 3. Wait
He's a
second.
writer.
Duke. Hazard.
It's gonna be a first take, like bottom third this
Yeah.
morning.
100%.
It is now.
The Miami Heat have been playing bad defense for a couple of weeks when they haven't played bad defense in years. And I want to ask you guys a serious question about this. Did they break Bam by making him play that way? Like, if we're load managing everybody and we're making everybody be careful with their bodies, and he misses a game when he never misses a game for his calves, and they have limits. I mean, you know this, right? This is a bit of a science. There are reasons that nobody plays 48 minutes a game unless it's in the playoffs, and there are reasons that nobody plays an entire second half. It's because the human body's limits make it so that they've deduced in basketball that there are diminishing returns when somebody gets so tired that they're playing all the time. So we'll never again have Wilt Chamberlain's number of playing all the minutes in a game. But I'm serious when I ask, there is no explicable reason that the Miami Heat would suddenly be bad at defense for the first time in 15 years. And the last 2 weeks, they have been as bad at defense as all the teams that are trying not to win, that are purposely tanking.
I wish I trotted this take out there, but you remember how like Bobby Abreu's production was never the same after that home run derby because he just fell in love with swinging for the fences. I thought to myself, I'm like, this is so random for Bam to be this guy, number 2 in a single game. And he's like, his whole thing is unselfish basketball. I was wondering if him going for 83 would mess with him any kind of tiny bit. And it's as good a theory as, I guess, any right now, is that, he kind of maxed out right there, and it's taken him a while to get back to that rhythm.
The previous theory is always, well, Tyler Hero's back, and they're hunting him, and when he's on the court, they tend to be worse at defense.
I get that too, but you look at the box score. Somebody named Kobe Brown had 18 points, and somebody named Micah Potter had 21 points.
You're messing with me.
He crushed them in the first half.
Micah Potter was
he made everything.
And he had nothing to do with Tyler Hero because he's 6'11".
That game was 79-75 at the half. Indiana, their demise has been precipitous. Do they have the most injury minutes logged or the games lost to injury of anybody in the sport? To go from the finals to as bad as they are, I mean, you have to chalk that up to injury.
Yeah, no, it's 100%. It's not just that Halliburton is out for the year. They started the year. Everybody's hurt. Nembhard, McConnell, Siakam, they were all out. And that really laid the groundwork for what could have been a season of, hey, we're going to scrap and we're going to fight, to, guys, there's nothing left here. The crazy thing is, I think they're number 1. I know Oklahoma City's up there too, believe it or not. The best team in the league has been one of the most injured teams this year.
Pacers should be fine, though. Like
they're
what
great.
they did at the deadline.
They're great.
It kind of reminds me of, like, remember that year David Robinson got hurt and just the Spurs were terrible, and it ended up with Tim Duncan.
That was.
Yeah, and then they just went on their 20-year run. I think the Pacers are built for a long time.
Then they fired Bob Hill, who was a really good coach, but, they were losing because they were bad. And, let's get Bob Hill out of here. And then their general manager became the coach. Remember his name? What was his name? Something Popovich. Greg, I think. Greg Popovich.
Charlotte got exposed a little bit over the weekend, I would say, when Boston goes in there without Jalen. That was without Jalen Brown, right? Boston goes in there and smokes them. And also the 76ers went in there at something resembling full health and also beat Charlotte. I would say that nobody in the playoffs wants to see Charlotte or Atlanta. But you always want to see
You're
Charlotte.
messing with me.
You always.
Are you guys doing a thing?
No,
I haven't been watching
Atlanta's
basketball.
like 16-2. They're
Making
last
up
like 18
names.
games.
Red hot Atlanta.
The Hornets, look, again, I know it sounds trite and overdone, but again, I will point out, look at their roster. Tell me who there comes with sage wisdom and clutch playmaking in a playoff situation. None of them. They're a bunch of children. And they're fun and they're exciting, and man, I can't wait to see where this goes. But they're going to go into the playoffs, and they're going to play a team, either the Pistons or the Celtics or the Knicks. And they're going to find out, like, oh, wow, there's another level of basketball above what we've been doing.
That's wild. Like, Celtics is one thing, but for you to give Detroit wizened playoff status, or for you to even give the Knicks wizened playoff status, even though I know they played for 2 years, they played meaningful games in the playoffs. It is a little crazy for you to cite those teams as the veteran playoff team.
Dan, they were an insane shot that went to the scoreboard and back down against the Pacers from going to the NBA Finals. Like, they would have won that game, there's a good chance they win the East and they go into the NBA Finals. Like, they're super battle tested.
Also, a guy with $7 still has more money than a guy with none. Like, that's, oh, you only got $7. You're broke. You got zero. That's what the Hornets are. They got zero. And this is going to be a nice learning experience for them in the playoffs. Now, Atlanta, different story. Atlanta's got some guys. Atlanta's got some vets. And Atlanta, we can tie their turnaround to a very specific event on the calendar, which is they got one guy up out of there, and they brought in a couple of veterans who've been around the block, and this has changed basically what we're seeing from them. Quinn Snyder is an experienced coach. He's been around the block versus Charles Lee. This will be his first playoff as a head coach. Like, all of these things add up, and I know people don't want to believe it. You want to say what I see on a Tuesday night in March weighs more than what I've seen on a Saturday night in April. But it's real. It is a real thing where if you haven't gone through it as a group, like not like, oh, a couple of our guys are untested. As a group, we haven't gone through it.
The thing that I'm laughing at, and you're not wrong in anything you're saying, but what I'm laughing at is after going all in with the playoff experience of the Knicks and Pistons, you then hit me in the face with battle-tested Quinn Snyder as a playoff coach.
I mean, Quinn Snyder been to the playoffs how many times? In Utah and Atlanta.
And loses almost every time I can remember. His experience is losing in the playoffs, like all the time.
What's winning in the playoffs for you?
I mean, Boston is the one tested team. And I'll say the Knicks. I will also say the Knicks because the Knicks over the last 2 years, it's not much of a sample, but over the last 2 years, they've done more winning than they did in the previous 20 combined. So the Knicks count.
But I'm not asking
Philadelphia would count too,
I'm not asking for examples. I'm asking you what qualifies as playoff success for you?
You got to get out of the second round for me. Yeah. And Philly does not count.
So,
they are famous failures.
Okay, but Paul George's experience in the playoffs is not unlike Quinn Snyder's experience in the playoffs.
Paul George made it to an Eastern Conference final. Like, the whole thing about the process is it hasn't netted an appearance into the conference finals.
I'm going to tell you guys right now, I would rather have a guy who's been to the playoffs 7 times and won and lost, right? Won games, lost games, won series and lost series, than a guy who's never done it before. Because there's a part of this where you just don't know. Like, these people just don't know what's waiting them. And obviously, Charles Lee has been assistant coach on some very good staffs, and so he's been in the playoffs before. But it's different when you move over those 6 inches and sit in that different seat, and now you're the one who's got to make the calls. You're the one who's got to call the timeouts or say we're pressing here or say, hey, we're not fouling up through, whatever. It's a lot different than when you're just sitting there and giving suggestions with a clipboard.
What do you do with the fact that the Miami Heat have all of this playoff tested stuff that you would like to cite as experience that matters? I would not like their chances right now against Charlotte. I would not like their chances against Atlanta. And I do not like what they're doing defensively after they've told us for the last 2 weeks, we're going to learn from this. This is a serious time. We all know that we don't want to be a play-in team. And now they've lost, what is it now, 7 out of 8? We said that we had 7 games to test them, and they lost all but one of them. And then as soon as they won the Cleveland game, Cleveland eradicated them with another one of those 50. We're going to be up by 50 points and hit you in the head, and you're going to have no chance against us come playoff time.
I feel like I have to make this clear because there will be people in the audience saying, yeah, tell them, Dan. Like, talent matters in the NBA. You can't take us and have Spo coach us, the 8 people in this room, and we'll fight. We'll be in the talent matters.
They have 3 All-Stars for whatever that's worth. They have 3 All-Stars.
That's not worth much.
Okay, but I know that Norm Powell is a one-time All-Star. I know that Tyler Hero is a one-time All-Star. Bam Adebayo is a top 20 player in the league? Top 25? Top 20?
Sure, top 25, I'd say. Yeah, but that's like, first of all, Hero and Powell are kind of, they negate each other, right? Because of the aforementioned redundancies between the two of them. But then on top of that, like when you look at the overall structure of this team, you still got guys like Pelle Larsson playing major minutes. Again, that's great. He's played well, but at the same time, it's like it says a lot that that guy can come in and immediately work his way to being a starter. When you look at some of these other teams and the talent level that they're starting with, it's much higher. It's the same story I've been talking about for since 2022, whatever. Like the Miami Heat are roster built on we've got to do everything right in order to have a chance to win the game.
Okay, but one of the things that we have been saying for the better part of 4 or 5 years now is some form of they have to get a player better than Bam, and then they got Jimmy Butler, who was better than Bam, and then we said they've got to get a player better than Jimmy Butler. What you're presently saying is giving credence to what Ethan Skolnick of 5 Reasons Sports says when he sees them play the Spurs, and he says Miami doesn't need 1 player. They need 3.
Yeah, depth would hurt.
He's not talking about depth. He's talking about in order to compete
3
with San Antonio.
better than Bam?
Better than to be what San Antonio is, you need to have 3 players that can match their 3 players. And you've got 1 that can play with their 3 guys.
But how do you match a guy who's a generational player? Like, oh yeah, we're trying to get to those guys. It's like, well, they have that guy who's a unicorn.
But what I'm saying to you guys is, do you agree with that assessment? Because if you agree with that assessment, then you're woefully, painfully behind in a way that can't be overcome.
So let me put it this way. If Stephon Castle played in Miami, he would be the what player for them? Best, second best? Where would he rank?
The best or the second best, depending on how you measure the defense of Bam.
He wouldn't be the best. He'd be the second best. Tony.
We talked about it.
We're both Castle guys. But,
you're both Castle guys, and he's got that's a good system for him. It's very Miami-like. Yes. But when I see what happened with Strus and Gabe Vincent, and furthermore, when I see where Bam and Tyler Hero were drafted and what they became, and that this guy was drafted top 5, not top 15, top 5. Mm-hmm. Like he's a more skilled player based on the value of how all the teams could have selected anyone they wanted, and Castle is somebody who was viewed as somebody more valuable as a skill set than both Bam and Tyler Hero.
Again, I would say that if he came to the Heat, he would not be their best player. Neither would De'Aaron Fox. Neither would anyone on the Spurs roster not named Victor Wembanyama. That's the only guy who's like, oh yeah, he's clearly better. So you can't tell me, oh, the Heat need 3 players. If we're saying, hey, if you get me someone better than Bam, so Bam doesn't have to be your number 1, you're already in a good position. Damn, Jimmy Butler had them in conference finals every other year.
It's not overly complicated what's happening in the Miami Heat. We saw, even though they made it to the finals twice, to win a championship, they needed a player better than Jimmy Butler when Jimmy Butler was on the roster with Bam Adebayo. So they need to add a Jimmy Butler and a player that's better than Jimmy Butler to get to the places that this franchise always claims it wants to go to.
I think if in Denver, I don't know how good of a player you would have to add because of Jokic. But I wonder if Tyler Hero was the current Tyler Hero back then, would that have made a difference? Maybe that series wouldn't be as lopsided as it was. Same thing in the bubble. If those guys were healthy, I wouldn't even say, hey, give me a different version. Give me healthy guys, and I would have given them a chance. And that's one of the examples, Dan, where you're like, hey, we're not as talented as them, but maybe our coaching can close that gap.
The bubble was interesting because it's the best Anthony Davis has ever shot in his life. Like, the reason the Miami Heat lost that series beyond not having Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo available is that was Anthony Davis shooting like 40% from 3 that entire bubble?
I believe it was
experience?
95%.
Hey, don't forget about Jay Crowder, though. Jay Crowder was amazing.
So good.
Miami was just top to bottom deeper too. Look, it's the same thing. Like they're not good enough. This is usually, I get jealous hearing you talk about Charlotte and Atlanta because this is usually the point in the calendar where Heat fans start talking about the Heat that way. They're rounding into form. You don't want to play this team coming out of the play-in. They're going to do it again, and they're not in that conversation right now. They seem like they got a long way to go.
The funny part about this roster versus years past is this is like a really young roster, and they actually have more upside talent than they've had in several seasons. The problem is that upside talent is young and very inconsistent. Kel'el Ware and Kasper Siakachonis are really talented young kids who were just first-round picks. But Kel'el Ware, from one game to the next, is an entirely different player. His impact defensively and offensively is entirely different from one night to the next. You have Pelle Larsson playing those minutes because he's an experienced guy who played several years in college and doesn't make mistakes. Right. But Norman Powell is an overachiever, right? An overachiever who's an all-star this year, in part because of what the first 15 games were for this team when they were catching teams off guard offensively. And now him and Tyler really equal one all-star because each of them are in and out of the lineup, and they're not all-stars when they're on the floor together. So you have a team that is more talented and younger than it's been in years past, but their inconsistency, particularly defensively, becomes the paramount issue.
I know this would have taken a lot of guts and a lot of cojones, but why didn't they try and move Powell at the deadline, knowing that they had max value on him? And then on the backside, it's like, what are you going to do to try? You already got Tyler. You can't keep Powell knowing that they're the same guy. Why not maximize value there?
It was a transition year. I mean, the reality is this team started hotter and gave people hope off the top, and Norman Powell's a free agent.
Yeah, that's
you look at, he's a free agent, and you go into next season where you have Norman Powell as a free agent that you say get something. A sign-and trade is a possibility with Norman Powell to get him somewhere else and get you either assets or another player that is strong where you're moving for a player that makes more sense with your roster. You'll have Hero on an expiring contract. If Andrew Wiggins opts in, which you expect at $30 million, he's an expiring contract. The whole narrative going into this season was hold on for a year because this upcoming offseason, you'll have more assets than you've ever had in terms of draft picks over the last 15 years, and you'll have more cap flexibility. It's just the disappointment of that 7-game win streak, people like me getting all hyped up, and then now you've seen it come crashing.
Even without like this big picture planning, Norm Powell is an impending free agent, not quite as like asset heavy a return because everyone's like, well, what if he leaves, right? So
you don't think you can get a first-round pick for him as a final piece somewhere so that you can strengthen your offseason package because you have more picks? We were told that they would that Giannis would stay in Milwaukee because Miami would have more to offer this offseason. You don't believe that they could have lured a number one for an All-Star?
Not at the trade deadline. No.
What worth does being an All-Star have if that can't get you a first-round pick for an All-Star for a contender looking for scoring and a final piece?
This is the hard part. You know, when I worked in a front office, we didn't care about stuff like that. We cared about the player. We evaluated the player. What does he do? How does he help us? What needs does he address of ours? Whether he was an all-star or not, that's for the press conference. Maybe that's to sell to your owner. So I remember when we traded Boris Diaw and Raja Bell for Jason Richardson and Jared Dudley. And we had to sell him on Jared Dudley. We're like, this guy's going to help us. I don't know, because he just never heard of Jared Dudley. So he's just like, I don't know. But, like, the thing that pushed the deal over the finish line for us was, and Jason Richardson is a dunk contest champion. And for our owner was like, wow, so that means at parties I can say, this guy's a dunk contest. Like, that was all it was about. But, like, in terms of those accolades actually meaning something to us, it doesn't mean anything.
I mean, though, there is a slight difference between dunk champion and all-star.
But it's all just rhetoric, right? Like, unless you're talking about someone who goes to the All-Star game every year. Okay, to me, that's an All-Star. Unless you're talking about someone who's All-NBA every year. Okay, that's one of the best players. But if we're talking about someone who had a great year, and Norm Powell had a great year, and he had a great year last year too, probably should have been All-Star last year. But again, if I'm a team that's acquiring Norm Powell, I'm acquiring him for all the basketball reasons and for the needs that he addresses of mine. Not because, like, well, let's see his his basketball reference says all-star.
I think he's an all-star the way that Jamal McGlure was an all-star.
Don't do that. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh, you acquire him, you're like, hey, this guy was an all-star.
Disrespectful. Disrespectful,
to
Michael.
McGlure?
To Dan's point about getting a piece, if you're a team that's a piece away and trying to make a trade and try to get a first-round pick, we saw the Thunder trade a first for Jared McCain. And you're going to tell me Norm Powell isn't worth more than Jared McCain?
It's a different thing. You're looking at a young player that is going to continue to grow. You're looking at Norman Powell at 32 years old. If you check out all the rosters of the teams that are contenders, trading a first-round pick when you're not Oklahoma City, who has an overabundance of picks, who's trading for a young player, he's not a guy that most of those teams actually needed, not in the East. And if you look at the West, shooting guard, there are so many scores.
Yeah, it's more than that. It's like Oklahoma City has a plethora of picks, so giving up picks wasn't a big thing for them. They have a salary crunch that's coming because all those guys got paid. Jared McCain's on a rookie deal. So he's not only is he young, like, oh, he's young, he can continue to get better. It's like he's on a rookie deal. We've got him for 2 more years at a very reasonable price. Norm Powell is looking to get paid this offseason.
Mike Ryan, please find for me Jamal McGlure's best season, his All-Star season. Did he average 14 points a game that season?
We're not going to invoke that name here.
There were no centers available that season, and you just did Norm Powell dirty by mentioning Jamal McGlure.
You're doing Jamal McGlure dirty.
What? Give me that All-Star season that Jamal McGlure had. What kind of point totals was he putting up that season?
13.6 points per game and 10.3 rebounds.
Oh, he averaged a double-double.
What you're doing is wrong.
The big cat.
You guys are all disrespectful right now, but there's no one more disrespectful in the room than Dan Le Batard, because you just reminded me. You once called Demolition Man Jamal McGlure.
Yeah,
and I will never
of action movies.
I will never forgive you
of action movies. Demolition Man put up, 14 points and 12 rebounds.
The hell it did.
One season. Jamal McGlure. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Should Jamal McGlure's nickname have been the Medium Cat?
This episode of the Dan Le Batard Show is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Was that the best moment of the tournament yesterday? Of all of the buzzer beaters, that was the moment, obviously, with the greatest stakes. I would say as well, I was stunned that Duke lost that basketball game. The only time Duke trailed in that game before the end was being down 2-0. And Connecticut was 1 for 18 from 3 and shouldn't have gotten back into that game. But listen to how delirious UConn's radio announcers are when Braylon Mullins, the most unlikely of people to be doing this shot in this circumstance from nearly half court, as Braylon Mullins goes off.
Back to Sarr, now ahead to Caden Boozer, and a steal! Mullins gets it! It's Caravan to Mullins, long-range 3! Oh! It went in! Mullins delivers! Bedlam! Bedlam here!
I mean, what does choking look like? Because I want to give credit to what UConn did. They clawed back into a game they shouldn't have gotten back into. They were down 19. They were down 15. They were fortunate to be down only 15 at the half, and Mullins is a name for all time now, correct? Like, we're putting him in the pantheon as a name that introduced himself to America for all time because he did the thing that sports fans love the most. It's not just Duke losing. It's Duke choking. What were your thoughts on that final sequence? Because I'm the guy, all the time, who wants to celebrate the victor for the positive things. But this was the collapse of a bunch of Duke players who should be undefeated this season. I did not recognize Isaiah Evans. That's a great basketball player. Didn't recognize him in this basketball game, falling down, just allowing fast break baskets because he was just completely invisible. How does Duke lose that basketball game other than breaking down mentally when all you have to do is make sure you break the trap? All you have to do is float the ball up in the air. Just throw it to the other side of the court. Hold it if you want to. Anything but that.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things at play. Number one is we see the variability of three-point shooting and how it has a massive, massive impact on the game. Three-point shot defense, we talk about this all the time. It's not your opponent percentage. Like all the numbers, all the studies have shown that for the most part, you don't impact their percentage. What you impact the most on the defensive end is their attempts. Are you taking the shot away? That's a good three-point defense. But if you're saying we're going to let them shoot and miss, you are living and dying with they're either going to make it or they're not, right? And so they shoot 1 for 18. We got this game under control. They start making shots. All of a sudden, it exposes all the holes that were there all along. It just you were surviving off those missed shots. That's number one. Number two, I talked about this either last week or 2 weeks ago. You're watching children play basketball. How do they coach that children game? Yeah, because children are out there who have never been in that position before. I was joking about it with Tony before the show today. Caden Boozer never saw this at Columbus. Like, I'm sorry, like, yeah, he's a great player and a great pedigree and all that. Like,
I mean, it's hard at every level of basketball. They've had to have gone under this exact
a full court
situation,
press. Yes,
dude.
but to Amin's point,
I know at Columbus they would run teams out of the building, but I hear you, and I'm sure John Shire said something in the huddle, or at least I hope he did, because it was a real coaching failure.
Yeah.
I understand they're kids, and where they played at high school, they're usually the bully team, but this is basketball 101. To me, like, I don't know. I think Shire's kind of skating. That was such a bad coaching mistake.
right. I'm with you on, if we want to put it on Shire, I'm 100% on board for that. I'm saying, as far as the kid goes, it's not, I don't think he made that decision because he's like, oh, I've never seen a full court press before. Oh, well, maybe this will work. I think it's like, oh, shit, we're about to lose this game. Like, that's what, he's a child, man. He's like 19 years old, 18 years old. There's no part of this. You guys are like trying to put like Luka Doncic level cool in a kid who's, like we said.
But it's not we're about to lose this game. It's I've got two guys streaking toward the basket for dunks.
And you're sitting like you're playing a video game and sitting back in the calm of your recliner and hitting pause on the game to go get a beer before you finish this game. That's not what's happening.
Were they afraid
here.
to go to the free throw line? Like, I don't.
I'm not saying like the decision was right. I'm saying that, hey, maybe, just maybe, under incredibly stressful circumstances, people sometimes lose their cool, especially when they've never been stressed like that before.
Duke lost to Texas Tech first couple of weeks of the season by 1 point. They lost to North Carolina, a game that they were leading throughout that was not unlike this game where they lost at the buzzer because North Carolina made 5 threes in the last 5 minutes. A truly absurd game for Duke to lose. But Duke was and is the best team in this tournament. They should have been undefeated. You can like Arizona, you can like Michigan. Duke's the number 1 overall seed. They shouldn't have lost this season. They shouldn't have lost a basketball game this season, and they sure as hell shouldn't have lost that one. Like, you cannot lose as the better team when the other team starts 1 for 18 from 3 and you're up 19 points.
But Dan, that's what we love about March, right? It almost gets to a point where both teams are equal. UConn was a great team this year. Also, they've been, I think I saw Hurley's been to the Final Four 3 of the last 4 years. He's an incredible coach. They have an incredible program put together. And that's just one of those games where all of a sudden the playing level was completely even.
And the kid who made the shot as a freshman, but look at the rest of their roster. Those are all veteran players, guys who are juniors and seniors.
They hung Caravan's jersey in the rafters.
No, it's like this is exactly what I'm talking about on the NBA level, albeit it's different. But the idea that, hey, when you have maybe not better talent, maybe not even equal talent, but close enough, but you got guys who have been there before, it makes a massive difference. Massive difference.
You think Mullins made that shot because of been there before?
No, he's a freshman. I said other than him.
I think he made it because of.
Yeah.
You say other than him, but the guy who took the shot, that's a panic shot. Like
that's a desperation shot.
But they needed 2. Like he didn't have to shoot it from there. And if he had airballed it, we would have been like, "What are you doing shooting it?"
He said after the game that he thought it was to tie it.
Yeah. Oh, really? I mean, that's funny, especially considering what we're talking about.
Been there before.
Because I was going to give Dan Hurley all sorts of credit.
But like, first of all, I preface by saying other than the guy who made the shot, right? But also to get in a position to make that shot, They had to make that comeback. They had to persevere under circumstances that were not ideal. On the opposite end, you don't think Duke recognizes, like, this lead was this, and now it's this, and now it's this, and now, oh, my God, it's a one-possession game? Like, that creeps into the mentality of players, young players, inexperienced players, in a way that a veteran team would not have choked that away.
I understand the theory of momentum, and I understand how everything gets a little bit tight. Duke's experience in close games this year is we lose them, because they didn't have that many close games, and this one was a crusher in a way that you saw on their entire sideline how shocked everyone there was.
I was a big believer, though, in what I saw against St. John's, because that was a Duke team that hadn't been in that kind of physical battle all season long. You could see it manifest on the court. Like 7 minutes into that game, Duke realized, oh, we're going to have to tap into something that we haven't had to all season. This team is dragging us into a rock fight, and I thought they grew so much from that. I was so impressed with Duke's ability to climb back into that game, take a punch, and keep rolling. And I thought that they would tap into that, and they were displaying that for a very long time. For them to be undone by between-the-ears stuff after that specific challenge from Pitino and them boys, that was kind of surprising. And it makes me think that Dan Hurley is actually who, the internet thinks Tom Izzo is. Dan Hurley is that dude. Three Final Fours in this era in 5 years is crazy.
He's a great coach. I don't think that's ever been up for question, right? I think what he's been able to do is a combination of a guy he's been around the block too, obviously, but also, man, you talk about this era, a lot of it is having older players. We are back to, hey, give me older guys because they're not going to make the mistakes that younger guys do. And because of those mistakes that they make, we are able to capitalize even when it's the youngest among us who's taking that last shot.
Did someone mention St. John's? Did you guys see what Pitino re-signed for? Because he just became the second highest paid coach in the Big East behind only Hurley, signed through 29-30. So he's going to be approaching 880 years old at the end of this next contract. He's being paid a ton. He's made it all the way back.
Bleh, he doesn't look a day over 30. I'm fibula.
This music, why did we, put this with vampires? Why did we associate this song with vampires?
It was a banger back in the day in Transylvania.
I know, but you think somebody was that's a good vampire song.
It does give off.
The guy that made it was I didn't make this for vampires, but now we've been overtaken by vampires.
The idea of the guy who made this being this is a nice light jam, huh? Wait, where's
this
why
are you playing a
doing
guitar? Why are you playing a guitar instead of an organ?
And Tony's I'm visualizing what Tony was thinking this guy when he made it.
It's true, Dan. He used to do it on the guitar, and then
Happy
they
and
switched to organ. I'm fibula. The lying vampire.
Wait a minute.
That's exactly how
he's got a key
I know
organ.
It's a piano.
He's got a key organ, a organ tar.
A guitar, yes.
But organ.
I want to get answers to some of these questions. I don't know. Who is the original vampire? Is it Bela Lugosi? Is that the original movie vampire?
Nosferatu.
No, it was me, fibula. Trust me on this
Okay,
one.
look, I need to object to something that you just did there.
Look.
And I thought it was funnier, okay, the first two times you introduced fibula telling obvious lies as a callback than you then telling us, what, I'm fibula, the Dracula, the vampire who doesn't tell the truth. I appreciate the context that you offered, but I found fibula slightly heavy-handed there. I thought he should have just continued lying to us with just crazy lies like Pitino looks 30.
Well, I'll go back to my good friend George Carlin and tell him that Dan Le Batard doesn't think this is funny.
Jeremy, what is the answer to the question as to how this organ that Chris played with the air guitar became the sound that accompanies vampires into a room?
A, that's an air keytar that he's playing right there, so it's perfectly fine. But B, this is a original composition by not Johann Santana, but Johann Sebastian Bach, and it was used in the 1931 film Dracula. So it then became used throughout Gothic horror films for the foreseeable future, and that's why we associate it with vampires.
It was my idea.
Why did you throw Johan Santana?
It's important
in
because I
there?
wanted to get us back to baseball, Dan. You know, Owen Casey started 5 for 10 with 2 doubles and a walk-off homer. That was the trade for Edward Cabrera. And the Marlins started pitching, had 19 innings pitched in their first 3 games. That's as many starting pitcher innings as 3 of the 4 teams that played 4 games in this opening weekend. Their starting pitcher was amazing. Their pitcher ERA was 2. Steam, Dan.
How'd you do?
You thought we
I did
should
great.
go from fibula to Johan Santana in
that's right.
baseball. That was where your judgment took you. You decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring it back to the Marlins pitching staff.
Yeah, I can't fib with you. I wanted to talk about it.
I think he's really funny. You should definitely not kick him out.
Let's update our tournament here and get rid of all of these Sweet 16 losers that we have. And, Jeremy, I don't know what I have to do in this arbitration hearing to get you to turn down the bad jokes by about 99%.
I already have a lot.
Yeah, you have you? Arkansas, a 4 seed, lost to Arizona. That means this is now gone from our tournament.
Brock Purdy looks like a youth pastor.
Number 11, Texas, is gone from the tournament, lost to Purdue barely. That means this is gone.
Adam Silver looks like an Apple Watch charger.
That one's gone. So many Adam Silvers, but that one's gone.
I'm looking at the Final Four right now, and there's only one remaining Adam Silver in our Final Four, and it's because UConn won with that buzzer beater. Otherwise, all of the Adam Silvers would be gone. So I want to keep updating our tournament here before we get to the Final Four here. The amount of chalk in this tournament made it so that we were that shot away from 3 number 1s and a 3. For all of the talk of madness, it doesn't tend to be a whole lot of madness. The sweetest and the most surprising of runs would have to be considered Iowa, correct? Because they were a 9 seed and because they were lingering around there and they beat the 1 seed.
A lot of takes are flying because these last 2 consecutive March Madness tournaments have been very chalky, and a lot of people are saying NIL. I would remind you, we're not too far removed from a Final Four that had San Diego State, FAU, and Miami in it, with the one big dog in UConn winning the whole thing, and that was the NIL era. I do think that there is something to these programs navigating the NIL waters, having a couple seasons to learn from their mistakes and grow, and that's why you see the bigger programs with bigger budgets getting here. But I think 2 years in a single elimination tournament to start having hot takes flying the way that they are, saying that the tournament's ruined, we're never going to have Cinderellas, we're never going to have a George Mason, Kent State. I also think that that's kind of knee-jerk considering the Final Four shirt from 2023 is objectively hilarious.
Let's look at how Houston got eliminated. The 2 seed lost to Illinois, which scores an awful lot. Houston gone.
Ed Malloy looks like the guy who brushes his teeth in the company bathroom.
That hurts. Number 4, Nebraska, is also gone. This one's dead on.
Bo Nix looks like he's a quarterback on a CW teen drama about high school football.
He does.
St. John's is gone, even though Rick Pitino lives forever. That means this is gone.
Scott Hansen looks like an orthodontist.
Number 4, Alabama is gone, lost to Michigan. Michigan looked pretty overwhelming this weekend. What happened to Alabama?
Paul Feinbaum looks like the maitre d' at a fancy restaurant.
Michigan State is gone. Michigan State lost to UConn. That means this is gone.
Adam Silver looks like a pissed-off lighthouse.
And number 2, Iowa State lost its best player, so this was gone.
Kurt Signetti looks like the uncle who comes to your house for Thanksgiving and before even saying hello says, your doorknob's loose.
So that means we've got our tournament, and I'm going to update what happened over the Elite 8 results in a second and tell you who it is that we have left. But I think all the ones that we have left, take a look at this list. I mean, the green ones are the ones that are remaining. Those are all pretty good, and I think people are going to be happy with what it is that our Final Four looks like. But let's get the sound, Chris. Can we get the sound? We played the UConn announcers being excited by the call at the end of the game. This right here is the lament of the loser. Look how quickly Duke's announcers go to the rule book and infractions and wanting to make a very quick ruling on something that nobody cares about. Hey, look at those excited guys. One of them was on the court. UConn's not allowed to do that. Where are our free throws?
Bobbled it back for Sarr. Needs to get rid of it. Does for Caden. 7 seconds. Trying to throw it ahead. Deflected. Stolen by Connecticut. 2 seconds. It's Mullins up top for the win. Oh, he hit it. With 3/10 of a second to go. Malachi Smith ran off the bench. That should be a technical. But with 3/10 of a second to go, Connecticut has the lead, 73-72.
That wouldn't have been a technical if all the UConn players had dropped their shorts at midcourt and mooned the entire Duke bench.
Oh, I feel good.
Up top for the win. Oh, he hit it.
Oh, he hit it.
Oh, he hit it.
What an insight into Duke's mentality that is.
This feels just like the opposite of Do You Believe in Miracles?
Up top for the win. Oh, he hit it.
Never has there been less emotion with a more emotional moment.
Up top for the win. Oh, he hit it.
He sounds surprised.
Up top for the win. Oh, he hit it.
He would have been less surprised if someone had reached over and thrown his penis into the sea. Like
Up
just
top for the win. Oh, he hit it. Malachi Smith ran off the bench. That should be a technical.
You can't.
That part is so good.
He's pointing. He's definitely pointing, right, when he says
That's
that?
my favorite part.
Can you guys hear the difference in energy between the first sentence and the second sentence? It says, and then as he's saying it out loud, he's like, oh, this is a dumb idea.
Malachi Smith ran off the bench. That should be a technical.
He's a fan, and then he goes back into broadcasting.
Realizes the situation.
I'm going to explain something to you guys here that is uproariously funny about what the lament of the loser is. That was one of the greatest moments in the history of that sport, and the announcer met it with, oh, he hit it. But a guy runs on the court, and that he met with a lot of enthusiasm.
Malachi Smith ran off the bench.
That's how you call what you just saw, not somebody who was a bench player running 1 foot onto the court.
Dan, what you're hearing is the desperation of someone grasping at whatever lifeline they can. I just need to survive. I need one last little bit of hope.
Malachi Smith ran off the bench. That should be a technical.
He realized how pathetic he was in that moment.
He's like, I need to bring it down a little bit.
Exactly.
Can you imagine if they had called that in that situation?
No. I can't even imagine it.
I just want everyone, though, to fully absorb, okay? You just witnessed one of the greatest moments in the history of that tournament, and what you saw on the sideline is give them a parking ticket.
Jaywalking.
You gotta give them we got a point there.
What's he doing?
What's that guy? Why is that guy happy over there? Look how unhappy I am. And why is that guy on the court? It really showed restraint that only one UConn player ran on the court, and then immediately, I don't know if you guys saw what he did. He immediately then went to the sideline and held everyone else back when he was the only one that needed to be held back.
Hey, you know what that is? Savvy veteran move. Malachi Smith, senior.
The thing about experience, I mean, obviously this makes sense. What you're talking about makes sense. All of these kids are learning how to play basketball. I don't make them children. Cam Boozer's not a child. They're not toddlers, but they are inexperienced and they are learning how to play basketball. But I remember toward the end with the San Antonio Spurs of Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker, whenever they won, it's because they were experienced. Whenever they lost, it's because they'd gotten old. I don't believe that experience is what won UConn that basketball game. Making threes at the end is what won UConn that basketball game. And it's not because they have some great experience in coming back in basketball games. They got drowned in the Big East tournament by Pitino and St. John's, and there was no recovering from it. The way they lost to Pitino makes me not believe in that basketball team. I don't think they belong in the Final Four. I think the championship's going to be played between Michigan and Arizona. That Michigan and Arizona are going to play the championship, that is a spectacular basketball game, and that's where it will be decided. And I don't actually mean that as a knock on UConn. They just lost me by the way that Pitino did that to them.
I think, again, I think the idea isn't that experience is a cure-all for everything, but experience allows you to navigate rough waters. In the case of UConn, the experience helped them. We're down, but we're not out of this game. And we know that there's a certain level of execution that we can bring to the table. And obviously making shots is part of execution that allows them to have the belief to go ahead and win this. At the same time, a lack of experience can do the opposite. It can make you doubt yourself in those moments, in those navigating those rough waters. UConn's rough waters, they were down. Duke's rough waters, they were up, but that up was shrinking. How do you respond in those moments? Those little mistakes that allow for those threes to get taken, not just made, but taken. That's what we're talking about here. And those margins, that's where experience comes up. It can never substitute talent. But if the talent is close enough, it can close that gap.
Do you know how weird it is and improbable it is statistically to be the lesser team, go 1 for 18 to start your game, and end up in the Final Four? Go 1 for 18 from 3 to start a game, get down 19 to a Duke basketball team. Are we not in agreement that the Duke basketball team put together the season that deserved the overall number 1 seed? They lost 3 times all season. All of them, they lost by a combined 4 points this season. Otherwise, they're undefeated. A combined, Jeremy, is it even 4? Did North Carolina also beat them by 1? Did they?
I just know they're your new Los Angeles Rams. I will tell you as soon as I see the schedule.
This is the deal, Dan. Someone said it before the show. I can't remember who. But like, that's why they play the games, man. You can have the Patriots were the most amazing. Oh my God! And they had a book already written. They already wrote the book. That's how good those guys were.
They lost by 3 to UNC.
Right, and then here come the Giants, who are a wild card. Does that make sense? It doesn't. But guess what? That's why we play the games, man.
Sports.
This is why we're here.
That's great.
Right? Like, this is why we have jobs. Because shit like that happens.
Well, the thing that I was bringing up during the Shadow Show that I will put in front of you guys again
Dukes of
is,
Hazzard?
in the case of my lifetime, I'm trying to think of something that brings sports fans more joy, not than Duke losing, which is very high on the list, but Duke specifically choking, Duke being laughed at, Duke being, at the end, dumb. The smart school, the school that thinks it's smarter than you, the Harvard of sports, being dumb at the end. You didn't get a lot of chances to do this to Krzyzewski. There weren't a lot of there were opportunities to laugh at them because they lost. There weren't a lot of opportunities to laugh at them because they disintegrated. Because I'm going to say it again. The only other time UConn led in that game was 2-0.
It's just a little weird for like UConn to be the benefactor, because like this decade, I'd probably be more sick of seeing UConn, right? I'd have more UConn fatigue than Duke fatigue.
And Hurley is definitely a polarizing figure. He's
way more annoying to like the average sports fan than anybody on Duke. Duke was missing the secret sauce, although they have it with their head coach.
John Shire was pretty annoying as a player. Let me just throw that one out there.
Pretty annoying.
We did miss an incredible coaching matchup, I think, because it was during the weekend. We had Mick Cronin versus Dan Hurley in a coach-off of, like, who could get redder. It was incredible. I was watching. I was like, this is great.
Let me go ahead and update the Elite Eight results because we've lost some teams that hurt. The moment that Purdue left, that means that this also left.
Jonathan Zaslow looks like he says, "Uh-oh, spaghetti-o," when he sees someone pulled over.
Zaslow is skiing. I am told that we will be sent videos of some sort from his skiing escapades. But that means Arizona remains in the tournament, and thankfully Jonathan Zaslow remains in the tournament.
Jonathan Zaslow looks like an off-duty mime.
On a smoke break.
You can argue that Arizona's been a better team than Duke has, realistically, Dan.
Yeah, Arizona's great.
Arizona's 34-2. They lost to Texas Tech in overtime and lost to Kansas. Like, they're one of the great teams, and we're not talking about them.
I mean, they are a 1 seed, and they could have been the overall number 1 seed, and I wouldn't have objected. I was a 9. I was gone. That means this is gone.
Mike McDaniel looks like the barista who asks if you've ever tried journaling while making your oat milk latte.
It's a good one.
Good run.
A little too detail-y.
Good run for that one.
Amin doesn't like that
I've
one.
met that guy.
Illinois, this one's accurate, so Illinois is gone.
Tony Reale looks like the overzealous owner of an Italian restaurant who always greets you at the door with "my favorite couple" when you walk in.
I misspoke. So that advances.
That's in the Final Four, buddy.
That's accurate, and that is in the Final Four, yes. Tennessee is gone. That means this will not be participating in the Final Four.
Pete Alonso looks like a police officer who, even when he's not working, still asks, "What's your 20?" when waiting for you to arrive.
Michigan deserves to advance. Over the last few years, Michigan is the only team I've seen having 7-footers set screens for 7-footers. Michigan advances. That means this advances.
Michael Smith looks like the high school teacher that motivates his students by sitting in a chair backwards.
100%. I think that's who he is, by the way, like the Tony Alley one.
How do you feel about Duke being eliminated and therefore this being eliminated?
Fernando Mendoza looks like the cashier in a 1960s McDonald's poster.
That's a good one, man.
The hairy arms there and the watch are really good. UConn advances. That means that Adam Silver has only one tournament team this year getting to the Final Four.
Adam Silver looks like a newly opened chapstick.
So, I mean, there have only been 2 schools to be eliminated from the NCAA tournament in 3 straight years after holding a substantive halftime lead in all of the games, 6+ points being considered substantive. It's not a lot of points, but it's John Shire's Duke team the last 3 years and Bruce Pearl's Auburn team 2023 through 2025. There is something Mike was mentioning, and he doesn't have this wrong. He's mentioning that UConn has been more relevant over the last year, but Duke is grandfathered in on hatred literally from your grandfather.
I get that.
Several generations.
I get that, but it's UConn. Like they're great too. They're the ones that I'm sick of seeing. I actually really like this Duke team. And I was kind of like, I know they got Miami guys too. That's part of it. They're missing a little secret sauce, which is also part of it. But I really love the way that they played, especially throughout this tournament. They got a really difficult draw. They were going through like all these henchmen, these big bad bosses at these levels that you would like to see a team like that conquer. Izzo, Pitino, and they were going to smite Dan Hurley, and they fell short there. And again, I think Shire's like, that's the first time that I'm like, ooh. Like, that's where you miss Coach K. They're recruiting at a very high level, but I just had a very difficult time wrapping my head around, like, a Coach K team makes that very same mistake. I couldn't see it.
My abuelo didn't really much care for Duke. At all. Like, he didn't care about basketball. He's like, why are you playing? Why don't you play baseball? And I was like, no, I'm not that good.
But your abuelo probably cared about Michael Jordan because he transcends all of basketball, and now he's suddenly very available in interviews. Like NASCAR, he's on ESPN's wonderful Sunday morning show, the show that is from another time, a magazine type of show, ESPN Sunday morning.
CBS.
Yes.
The gearhead was just destroyed, Dan.
Oh, no! Did it just break apart?
I lost a lot of gears.
Oh, no. I saw it fall off your head. You turned around like you were going to turn around dramatically to reveal that you were wearing the gear head.
Can I say, Mike, you're trying to fit it over your headphones, over your baseball cap. Dude, you were kind of playing with fire there, man.
It was. Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
Yes,
There's
it's
so many.
The gearhead was. There are many pieces to the gearhead. It was made lovingly by Mike Fuentes. So now you're very excited because you get to talk about Michael Jordan. He is all of a sudden a lot more available than he was for interviews when he was losing all the time as the owner in Charlotte. Why don't you catch us up, Mike, on all gearhead related things, and we'll try to ignore that the gearhead itself is in shambles. The helmet has broken apart.
Well, it's important to know that this gearhead segment is brought to you by Cuervo. For every lap, keep it fun.
Labels out. Labels out. There you go.
Keep it Cuervo.
Attaboy.
So, Martinsville, short track racing, finally back on the NASCAR circuit. Denny Hamlin was bossing this race, as he usually does at Martinsville. But Chase Elliott had other plans at the paperclip, Dan. A pit stop was where this race was won. They take a gamble. They get the short pit stop. Hendrick Motorsports on top for the first time all season. Was worried about them. I know that they can't rely on the 48 car. So, the number 9, the son of Bill from Dawsonville, Chase Elliott, takes the race at Martinsville. But for me, the main NASCAR story was what we saw at CBS Sunday Morning, because it's very rare when you get a Michael Jordan availability. It's only afforded to Peacock for several $1 million, or he sits down with Gayle King because he loves talking about NASCAR. And this dude is a completely different guy around this sport. What I love so much about NASCAR and going to these races is how fan-friendly these events are. If you have pit access, garage access, the drivers are right there. And it's not hard to get. No. It's not hard to get. You can be on the finish line like 20 minutes before the race, and the drivers are all there. And you would think Michael Jordan would be inaccessible to even like a top tier like fan package. He's not. He's sitting right there. You can reach out and touch him if you want, and he doesn't seem to mind it. And I thought the most interesting quote that he had, I know First Take might do something with his like GOAT commentary, saying there's no such thing as a GOAT because everybody borrows from different generations.
Accurate.
But I thought when he revealed he likes being around NASCAR, he's got something to give to this sport, whereas when he's around the game of basketball, he doesn't like his own presence and how it affects the game. He's a myth. He's in many ways larger than the game itself, and that wears on him. And he's got this weird relationship with being around basketball, attending games. Whereas with NASCAR, it's something new. It's something fresh. It's challenging. It's not something that he can put the ball in his hands and be great. It's adversity for him, and he's really gravitating to that at this stage in life. I mean, I know you saw the CBS Sunday Morning piece. What'd you think?
No, I thought about, first of all, the last time I saw him that energized and excited talking about something was probably when he talked about playing baseball, right? Because the idea is like, this isn't a place where I'm a deity, and if I scratch my ear, everyone's like, that's how you scratch your ear on the right side. That's the only way to do it, because Michael Jordan does it that way. To like, no, I can just be one of the guys, or as close to one of the guys as he probably can experience in his life. But the other thing is also, I know that a lot of people were surprised, and I'm like, hey, man, you want to talk about just a good old boy? He is from Wilmington, North Carolina. He is a product of the American South. And yeah, he likes stuff like that. He likes NASCAR. He had a motorcycle team before this. He's built his way up to NASCAR ownership. And this is it reminds me a lot, Dan, when we have people come on, like famous actors or comedians, and we talk to them about sports, and they light up because like every other interview, you just want to know about, hey, how fun was it to make Anaconda with Paul Rudd? Like, oh, it was great. He's such an amazing actor, whatever. And now all of a sudden it's like, hey, what do you think about the Kansas City Chiefs? Like, oh, now finally someone's going to ask me about something that I am passionate about, I'm interested in, that isn't this identity thing that I have to walk with every single day.
Dan, like Kobe, to a very large extent, and A-Rod too, they kind of modeled Jeter. They modeled their behavior around a cerebral Michael Jordan. That there was one NBA Finals that he won after his dad passed where he let that emotion out, but he wasn't this joyful player. He displays more joy on any given NASCAR race, hopping over the barrier and congratulating his driver, than he ever did on the court. And for me, as someone that grew up lucky enough to watch Jordan dominate the game and become bigger than the game itself, it's really strange and refreshing to watch.
Yeah, if you think about it like this, Mike, like when has Michael Jordan been allowed to be a fan of basketball, right? Like even going back to North Carolina, he's been a machine, obsessed with dominating, right? You don't get to have fun with that. You get to just treat it as a serious job, which he has to probably the greatest extent of anyone in the history of the game. NASCAR is like, there's no part of this where he could be like, oh, man, let me get behind the wheel. Like, I can't do this. I'm just a fan. Yeah, I own it. Yeah, I fund it. But it's like at the end of the day, it's the joy of I'm a fan.
I'm going to go back, though, to Michael Jordan when he's in the gym in North Carolina, and I'm going to go next to him, and I'm going to stand next to him when he's at practice, and I'm going to be like, you're not going to believe it. You're going to be the best ever at this. But what's going to excite you is baseball and NASCAR. He does not agree with you on Hard Knocks, Chris. He doesn't.
Oh, trust me. We had a whole text exchange last night. I almost drove to his house to fight him.
Yeah, you guys have very wildly disparate opinions on the Oakland Raiders and Hard Knocks. But first, Billy, welcome back. How was your honeymoon?
It was good. Thank you for asking.
Oh, he's tightened up his game now that he's refreshed. Okay, things are
it's just so hot today, Dan. I don't know what's going on with the air, but luckily I have this little fan that I bought before a hurricane that I have plugged into my phone, so like it's keeping me nice and cool.
I'm so jealous.
You guys should get these. These things are awesome. Look at it, Dan. You see this thing? Look at
this. Can you please tell me about all the awkward things that happened to you? Did anything weird happen to you in Barbados? Like what kind of, just give me some awkward Billy on his honeymoon stuff. Is there anything that...
The non-awkward would be a much shorter story.
Yeah, I wonder how this is going to go. What's the best you got from your honeymoon? And then we'll move on to other things like Antonio trying to steal your job.
I've had a lot of awkwardness, well, in my entire life, I guess. But recently I've had a bunch of awkwardness. So I'd say from the honeymoon, I think the most memorable thing that we did was, so in Barbados, they have an annual carnival, right? Or carnival or whatever, right? It's called Crop Over. And it's at the end, well, it's actually called Kadooment, but that's a different story.
All right, go sit outside for a second. We'll get back to it.
Whoa!
Antonio, just go sit in his chair. We'll get back to it.
I'm back, baby.
I want to hear the whole story. I just don't understand why you can't even get the name right of Carnival. And like,
it's Crop Over. That's fine.
Why is it called a honeymoon?
It's a good question.
That is a good question. Put it on the poll, Antonio, now that you've replaced Billy in his chair. Do you know why they call it a honeymoon? Mike, do you have the sound? A very simple sound, a very simple question. Basically, I want you to hear Billy, who has a reputation for yammering and just not being able to get anything out, and he's rusty, because he hasn't been paying attention to the internet for 10 days. So he came in here today, and it was just a furnace blast of news, all of it weird, disorienting. The local hour has gone someplace else.
We showed him Antonio Brown's feet.
Yeah, like he's missed a lot. I am actually scared when I disappear for my honeymoon. I'm going to come back and I feel like things are just going to be gone. There's the possibility like the shipping container room just floated off into the Atlantic Ocean.
We're still not out of hurricane season.
Yeah, I am going to fall it's very easy to fall very far behind, very fast when it comes to the amount of stimulation and news and sports stuff that you are getting. Billy was off the grid. He comes back. Everything's changed except his inability to say anything quickly. So
it's white now.
Everything is different. Like you
That's the most efficient you've ever been.
Yes. Look at that. Did you learn something on your honeymoon? This happened Friday early afternoon before or after, excuse me, we had all left for the week. Tiger Woods got involved in another car accident and has a DUI, and I'm having a hard time getting my head around the fact that one of the most recognizable athletes in the history of America shows the symptoms of being an addict, shows the symptoms of having to self-medicate on pain stuff. And I was asking you guys, I remember this conversation the other day because I know that most people who have money problems think that money solves all the problems, and if you didn't have money problems, you would then be okay. So a lot of times, rich people don't get your compassion or your empathy on things. So when I said to you guys, how many back surgeries has he now had, Jeremy? Is it 9? When I said to you guys, hey man, like him still trying to play golf with all of that torque and still having all of these surgeries suggests that none of the other surgeries are working. So he's constantly waking up in pain. And if I asked him, hey, how much of your money here could I get rid of if I promised to get rid of that pain? I'm guessing he would give up a lot of his money not to wake up over in every morning in some kind of pain. Our pharmaceutical problem in the United States and the world is a giant one. You mix pain medicine with alcohol, it'll make the pain go away. And I know a lot of people, everyone is saying, why don't you just get a driver? A driver doesn't make the pain go away. And yes, of course, he should get a driver. But I am now left with the impression, and tell me if it's an unfair one, to think that if he's getting caught this many times with reckless car accidents, he's probably not getting caught every single time that he's doing it. He's not so unfortunate that he can't hide any of these or he can't cover any of these up. So when I present to you guys, hey, is this the behavior of an addict? Does Tiger Woods have a substance problem? Do you guys just land on, yes, of course now. At this point he does.
I do, yeah. Yeah. Did you see where he flipped his car? It was a cul-de-sac.
And what time of day?
Yeah. Like he blew a zero. So like I've dealt with it in my life, and it was always a dicey proposition when that person would get behind the wheel and they got into accidents. And they would say that they're in pain, but 10 years after the procedure, you like the drugs too. Like, I don't doubt that he wakes up in pain, but I also think that could be an excuse for someone that also really likes the drugs, and he needs to get his life in order.
Oh, but when people are saying, and I get why everyone ends up there, just get a driver. Yes, of course, there's too much damage. I mean, people like their freedom, but yes, of course, get a driver. But if a person can afford a driver in a way that all of us are like, what are you doing? Just get a driver. Do you know how much access that person has to pain medicine? Do you know how much access that person has? You think of addicts rummaging through your parents' belongings in order to sell things out of desperation. This person can have access to every single thing they want every time they leave their cul-de-sac.
I think that's two different conversations. This guy's been hearing for 20 years. Get a driver. He very clearly values his privacy, so he can go out and do whatever he sees fit. And part of that is what we saw play out, possibly. And TMZ is reporting that he's not getting a driver. I don't know how they would know that, but it's a report that came out.
It's kind of the same situation with Patrick Mahomes Sr., right? That every time we see him in the news, it's like he's got another DUI. And it's like, at what point do you just like tell the guy, hey, you can't leave the house without somebody taking you somewhere? It doesn't happen.
I mean, I understand how that might be frustrating too, right? Like that feeling of a lack of freedom, we look at as a luxury. Like, I wish I had someone who could drive me around all the time, but I could see in the eyes of an addict in particular, well, you guys don't trust me? Like, there's a lot more beneath the substance abuse, right? We like to just do a one-to-one of saying, oh, it's because he's high or he's drunk or whatever, that's why he acts that way. But, he acts that way, and then these things enter his system, and then that exacerbates the situation. Him stopping doing whatever it is he's doing, he blew zeros on the breathalyzer, so he wasn't drinking, but him stopping the pain pills or whatever will not stop the underlying urge to do it.
I just don't think that we have a comp on a person who has lived this kind of public life as a thing. It's like learning Michael Jordan now had some sort of substance problem. He has been a pillar of excellence at something for a long time. And I remember how betrayed everyone felt because they believed the Buick commercials and were like, how could he be cheating on his wife? I can't believe that this person is not the regal country club figure and icon and pristine symbol that I've always known. This is a flawless human being. How could he be immoral at his core? But what do you do with what it is that you're presently seeing, where you have 3 incidents now involving a car, one of them that introduced us to the entire secret of his life, which is a golf club is being used to hit the back window of his car in a domestic confrontation. There is also the body cam video in the middle of the night of an officer clearly talking to a slurring and not fully functional Tiger Woods. This is a DUI charge, even though you guys are saying it's blowing a 0-0. How does that work exactly? Like, I didn't think there was such a thing as a DUI charge that has that kind of breathalyzer reading.
So that happened actually to Dylan Brooks a few weeks ago in Phoenix. He was pulled over for quote unquote driving erratically. He did a breathalyzer. He did the field test and all that stuff. And he's still arrested and booked on a DUI because the officer said there's a scent of marijuana, and I have suspicion that based on the way he was driving that he is impaired. They can arrest you without having a positive kind of any presence of alcohol in your system.
Well, but the alcohol is what I wasn't thinking that this is a DUI alcoholism. I think because of the way that he was slurring in the body cam video that we saw in the middle of the night, I'm always assuming pain medication, and I'm assuming it because I will say it again. What's the number of surgeries, Jeremy? Is it indeed 9?
It's 7. It's 7 back surgeries at this point, and the reason he gets a DUI is because he did do the breath test. He refused to do a urine test when asked, and he did tell the officers that he had taken medication for prior injuries.
I will ask the group, if I make the addiction to pain medication, do you find more compassion in your heart because of what the excellence cost him? When I say 7 surgeries, right? A lot of these are the same surgery. They're going back in to deal with pain because he's got back problems. It's the reason people thought he wasn't going to catch Jack Nicklaus, is because back problems end up harming just about everyone in that sport.
You know what else harms other people, Dan? Like killing somebody with your car.
Yeah.
I know you're an empath, and I don't doubt that he's in pain. He needs to get help. Before he hurts somebody else. Do what you want to do on your own time, hire a driver, and deal with your issues privately. But when you're getting behind the wheel of a car, you're endangering others.
I am not forgiving the behavior, okay? I'm simply looking at it and saying to all of you, do you guys know how rare it is for someone of this iconic status? I mean, Maradona was sort of in the same boat, but Maradona we thought was reckless throughout his entire life. Do you guys realize how rare it is for someone of this status to become this late in life a danger to himself and others?
I would say that Tiger Woods has been known to be reckless for several years now, and I don't think it's all that rare. You cherry-picked one from sports. In celebrity, we see this all the time. He has afforded to him a life of excess. He has people willing to feed his current addictions the same way that top-line rock stars do. It's a very dangerous situation for him.
It is an interesting thing you brought up, the idea that typically when we think of an addict, we think of someone like, hey, I got to pawn this VCR to get like one more hit. But when your financial situation offers you literally limitless, like there isn't enough drugs he can do to like run out of money and then have to scrounge for it. When there is no barrier to access, where's the edge of that cliff? And again, that's why I go back to, man, it goes a lot deeper than the guy being addicted to something. It has fundamental issues with how he feels about himself beyond the physical, right? Imagine, again, think about, who was it? who wrote was it Wright Thompson that wrote the really deep Tiger Woods feature where we learn he's doing like Navy SEAL training because he's trying to feel a connection to his dad who passed away, who was in the military and all that. And it makes you think, if we're doing armchair psychology, you talk about the pain, Dan. Imagine someone who was raised to be the greatest ever and then lost the person who inspired all that, and then also feels like, I'm not the greatest ever. I fell short of that goal. How much does he hate himself beyond the physical pain?
I fell short by finishing second.
Yeah.
Because I'm the second greatest ever in majors, and most people would acknowledge, if I asked everyone who's not a golf fan, hey, who's the greatest golfer ever, most people would just say Tiger Woods.
Yes,
they wouldn't say Jack Nicklaus.
You know who wouldn't say Tiger Woods? In Tiger Woods' mind, probably his dad. And that's his whole life was seeking the approval of this man.
He's also benefiting from an adoring public that is not really casting that much judgment on him.
Still trying to protect him.
Still trying to protect him. There are reputable journalists that are doing selfie cam vids that are emotionally talking about this, getting him some help. Everybody is rooting for him, and because his success in sports has afforded him a certain lifestyle, no one looks at him like a junkie, despite really reckless behavior behind a wheel that would be in line with people throughout pop culture and in sport, really, that you would say, man, that person's a junkie.
The thing that I would say to you, though, is different when you say rock stars or celebrity. Very few have ever had as pristine a reputation as this person did. He's coming from the country club. Like, he's coming from,
we're a long way removed from pristine. Pristine was 2008, 2009. It's damn, man. His kids are adults now.
Not since the Marlins started 3-0 for the last time.
Remember, like Tiger Woods' little kids, they're adults. They're adults, man. Like that. Pristine is long gone. It's out the window. It's not Diego Maradona, obviously, who you said was another boat. I was like, man, he's another ocean. That dude was on another plane.
But the point I'm making about, yes, it was a long time ago that Tiger Woods was viewed as pristine.
Right.
But what is rare is all of a sudden in the 40s, whoever you thought was an icon of professionalism, oh no, that person's showing the behavior of an addict. That looks like junkie status. Like it's not a usual path. Normally with the rock stars, with the Charlie Sheens, which whoever it is that succumbs to the temptations, those people have bad boy in them before their 40s.
I'll give you an example, and maybe this is probably not a great example, but it's a little bit out of my comfort zone. But Mickey Mantle was worship. Mickey Mantle was an alcoholic, but like a combination of like his status and also the way sports was covered at the time.
Well, that's a good point because
they kept the secrets. They didn't put it out there. The Mick was.
Yeah, the thing that I said about Tiger Woods is that the rules literally changed on him to catch him with his pants down. We did not cover Michael Jordan that way. If we had covered Michael Jordan that way, following him around, we would have found other stuff in his divorce and otherwise that would have taken some of the mythological status.
Yeah, but Tiger Woods is not victim to a new standard. People actually do protect Tiger's privacy, especially in Jupiter. He is protected. He is in this bubble. He is beloved. If Michael Jordan had police reports the way that Tiger Woods does, you could not avoid that type of coverage. Tiger gets in his own way. And it might end up being a good thing because this is not – you're going to kill somebody. This is not sustainable. This is a very dangerous situation. I mean, there are probably plenty of people in sports and otherwise that deal with this very same thing, and you do not know about it.
He's right about that. I mean, he's right about the fact that the only reason we know any of this about Tiger is because it's the police involved. These things become newsworthy when the police get involved. That's how they get in front of us. Lord knows how many people have kept some of these things out of the public.
Including the police.
Right.
Like, it's because the police are involved because it was so egregious. It's like the one in Palo Verde, right? Like in California.
Yeah,
it's like,
he flipped his car in a neighborhood. It makes me think, how many times has he been pulled over? That the charm and superstar of Tiger Woods being in that driver's seat, he's allowed, hey man, let me drive you home.
Yeah.
Let me give you we'll take care of your car. You can get out of this jam.
Yeah, man. Like if it's just we're never getting the report that Tiger Woods was doing 45 and a 44. He got pulled over and then he had dilated pupils. We're not getting that. We're getting, oh shit, he almost died again, like in a car crash. Like that's the ones we're getting. It's literally the most egregious. It's surpassing a threshold of we can keep this a secret, and that's what makes it different than perhaps anyone else. I have no doubt there are celebrities, superstar athletes, singers, movie actors, whatever, all over the country who have probably done things that regular people would be arrested for, in terms of under the influence, right? But it's just like you can't go 10 meters past the limit and still continue to believe that I'm going to be protected unless you have some sort of internal self-destructive, self-sabotage thing that's happened with you where you're like, man, I just don't care anymore. And that's the part where I get worried. Why are you smiling?
Well, Roy shook his head and Tony shook his head at the self-sabotage.
Damn it.
A Rosaurus Rex situation.
They both noticed this. Justin Timberlake has a body cam video of him being arrested in the Hamptons. Do you guys remember his discomfort about telling the officer, I'm on world tour.
This is going to ruin the tour.
This is going to ruin, but he was trying, and the cop was like,
Try to be subtle, but without being subtle.
Well, right. Well, yes, that's exactly what was happening. He just said something about the world tour, but then the officer said, "What do you mean?" And he couldn't.
He's like, this is awkward or something.
No, he just couldn't explain what a world tour was. He couldn't. He was trying to figure out the creative way to not say he's Justin Timberlake subtly, but he was under the influence so much that subtlety escaped him, and he made it worse by trying to do it subtly.
I'm going to tell you what, Dan. You want to talk about the charm and the kind of the charisma that these guys have in these moments? In that same video, when he's looking over the report, race, white? That's the 10 out of 10. That's the charm right there, man.
Funny.
The charm offensive.
You know what? Let's forget this whole thing.
Exactly.
We'll drive you home.
It's a hell of a Hail Mary. It's like, yo, let me see how I can thread this. Oh my gosh, man. Imagine having the wherewithal to just pull that one out.
I mean, world tour. Not a lot of people can just sort of throw at the officer some form of world tour, but then he couldn't explain what a world tour was until he just says, yeah, I'm Justin Timberlake. And that didn't help him at all, because when the officer has you in his sights there, I do wonder how many times Tiger Woods has gotten away with something like this in his enclave because he's not flipping over the car. The time of day, right? The time of day.
2 p.m. is woof.
But when you think, let's make this not Tiger Woods. Let's just make it somebody who is an addict. If I give you all the world's means, and anytime you leave the house and go anywhere, someone's willing to take you for a party. Like any single time that you go anywhere, the temptation, whatever it is that sobriety requires in terms of maintenance, doesn't have quite the temptation involved that Tiger Woods has anytime he steps into public. Anytime with his means, he can get access to just any single thing that he wants. In some ways, it's the most dangerous kind of addict. It's the kind of addict you need to take freedom from, because he's going to hurt himself or somebody else. You can't keep flipping cars. You can't keep flipping cars at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because your judgment is impaired. But when I put in front of you guys the 7 surgeries for the same thing, 7 surgeries for the same thing, back problems, you assume he's in a giant amount of pain, correct? You assume that that's the starting point on all of this, that he's medicating pain. That if I give anybody who's listening to this, who's in pain, if I put in bottle form something that's going to take you out of pain, we're all going to get addicted there. Everyone is.
No, that's a cavalier statement. There are plenty of people that go through knee pain, corrective surgeries, whatnot, and they don't get addicted to it. Look, these things are highly addictive.
Not with these means, Mike.
I'm not comfortable speaking with that kind of base level knowledge. I just know I know what it looked like in my own experience with family members that it ended up killing them. I do think that there's some aspects of this that are that there is some selfish behavior here, some reckless behavior here. I mean, Kurt Angle somehow found a way to get off of his astronomical intake. There are people that power through that have real addictions and somehow find a way. And while addiction is a thing that needs to be dealt with a certain type of tact, I also am not on team let's absolve this kind of behavior, not especially when you're getting behind the wheel of the car and can take other people out.
Dan, I keep going back to this. He's in a lot of pain. Yeah, he has access to drugs. Man, there's something else happening there that's not about surgeries or back pain.
But you guys misunderstand. I'm not saying that addiction can't be managed, though it is hard, and I would say pain medicine addiction probably has to be among the hardest if we're not talking about heroin or crystal meth. What I'm saying is anyone who is in pain and wants to relieve the pain and finds that relief in a bottle, that person can get addicted and then can figure out how to manage it. But Kurt Angle first got addicted, that he figured out how to manage it. It starts with, wait a minute, there's something that makes the pain go away? Yeah, it's going to destroy my organs. Yeah, it's going to shorten my life. But today I get to wake up and my back doesn't hurt and I'm not thinking about my back hurting. That would be a temptation for anyone who's in a substantive amount of pain that requires 7 surgeries. And I'm not even excusing the behavior. You're not wrong in any way. Of course, he's fortunate that he hasn't harmed someone yet.
No, I mean, in part, his body's in pain because he got into a car accident before, too. It's not just the back. His leg got completely jacked up. I definitely have sympathy for what he's going through, no doubt. But there is a level of behavior here that definitely deserves being criticized and is dangerous. And he is in the position where people are rooting for him. He hasn't yet hurt anybody. And I hope to God it doesn't get to that point.
Also, how does he still have a license? I'm just let's start there, right? You can't drive anymore. Not you shouldn't drive anymore. You can no longer drive. I think at this point we can say, regardless of whatever's happening with him, and we hope he's all right and all that, you forfeited the right to be able to drive a car at this point.
But who's going to enforce that? Who's going to tell Tiger Woods, hey, you can't do that anymore?
The government? The DMV?
It hasn't happened yet.
He's got friends in high places.
I'm just saying at some point.
No, but when that happens, I don't think Dante Stallworth can drive anymore because he killed somebody. I think he is still being driven around however many years later on this strip of land over here that I know that for many years, maybe he can drive now, but for many years he couldn't drive. How many car incidents is this for Tiger? Is it 3? Because the golf club and the back of the back window of the car, that was not a DUI incident. It was
I think he ran into a tree.
Yeah.
In all that, which is why the police got involved. The police weren't responding to the club being hit on the back window. He flipped his car. I don't think recently. I don't think that had anything to do with it. When he was leaving the shoot in California, he just got
one?
Yeah, I think he just got in a bad accident. He did have the previous DUI in which, I think NBC during their golf coverage had to apologize because they showed the wrong incident when they were trying to talk about this one.
You're talking about they had so many Tiger Woods DUI incidents to pick from. They're like, oh, my bad. Not that one, this one.
I don't think it's 4 DUI incidents, but I do think it's 4 car incidents.
This is the 4th car incident. So the first one, when it was everything with his wife, he hit a fire hydrant and then a tree in Orlando at 2:30 in the morning. 2017, he was found asleep inside a vehicle. And then in 2021, it was life-threatening car crash in Los Angeles.
So you're of the thought that will get your car just taken away, your privileges as a driver taken away, because I do believe you have to harm somebody. It's not Patrick Mahomes' father he got several DUIs over a course of time, but he also didn't harm anybody other than himself in the doing of it.
Yeah, I live in Arizona, and it's like a zero tolerance state. They can literally book you for a DUI for you could blow a .01. Which I believe is like mouthwash, and that they can
send you to Tent City.
Yeah, like book you and like put you in a very uncomfortable. We don't have tent city anymore, but it used to be this literally tents. It was outdoors in the sunlight in the middle of summer.
Yeah, Barkley got sent there.
Yeah, so
they make you wear pink underwear.
Yeah, I never understood that part. Like I think
that's racist Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
Yep, Sheriff Joe.
That's what that was. So what do you mean you never understood?
No, I
that
never.
part?
Like I don't understand. Like what? Like this is a punishment. Like you got to stay outdoors in the summer. Oh my God, that's awful. Yeah, and you got to spend 30 days with convicts and people. Oh my God, that's awful. And your underwear is pink. I'm like, okay.
I don't even understand it. Like, what is that?
Can we go back to the sunlight?
What was that rule? How did they put that in place?
I'm wearing pink underwear right now.
That was racist Sheriff Joe Arpaio did whatever it is that he wanted back when America was great again.
Racist Sheriff Joe Arpaio, not creative Sheriff Joe Arpaio. That's what they never call him creative.
No.
It's like, and we'll make him wear pink underwear.
Yes.
You want to talk about kiss asses in a boardroom? Those guys are, yeah, you tell him, Joe. Like, come on, man. That's the best we can come up with for punishments?
I wanted to get to some NBA stuff with Amin being here and not necessarily the Raptors going on a 31-0 run against Orlando. That is, we've been talking a lot about the Heat around here, but Toronto and Orlando are really in no man's land. Even if you look at the way Indiana and Dallas have made it to the finals the last couple of years as middling seeds, Toronto has no earthly way of getting past the New York Knicks. Like there's no circumstance in which they will play the New York Knicks and then defeat the New York Knicks. If they avoid, what do you mean? What? They match up very poorly with New York.
It's just there's something about you have Quickly and you have R.J. Barrett. Like if I'm gonna write Knicks horror story fan fiction, it's R.J. Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly destroy them in the playoffs. And then it's like, oh, my God, it's all happening again.
Jeremy, can you look up for me, please, the number of times consecutively that the Knicks have beaten the Raptors, both in both countries?
In both countries.
No, because I can't remember the last time. I don't believe this group of Raptors has beaten this group of Knicks. I don't believe not one time. Every time I watch those two teams play, the Knicks are winning by double digits. None of the games are even close.
Dan, I can tell that you don't think that the show is big in Toronto and in Canada because after an incredible, historic feat that they accomplished last night, you're going after them for not beating the New York Knicks. They had 31 straight points that the Orlando Magic couldn't score a point. Not a free throw, not a putback, not nothing.
Nothing. You know how hard that is?
31.
It's hard enough for
4 touchdowns and a field goal
for an NBA team to not be able to score in that span. But Orlando's actually a good team. It's not even like, oh, the Wizards. If this happened to the Wizards or the Kings, we'd be like, oh, my God, you guys are terrible. Orlando's actually a decent team. They could score 31 unanswered.
The Knicks have beaten the Raptors in 12 straight matchups dating back to 2023. But they're not going to square off in the playoffs unless they get to the conference finals because Toronto's presently the 4-5 seed. And they'd go against Cleveland. But I guess if the Hawks catch them, that's how that could happen.
That's how it's happening because the Hawks are on fire. We're tuning up for that 3-6. But again, 31-0 run, I'd be out of timeouts. I'd get ejected.
Let's do something. Run the court, tackle somebody.
At 21-0, like I'm out. You guys got it. you figure it out.
That I don't know if that is the game that made it 81 games this season decided by 30 or more points, but it's never. This is the most it's ever been. This is the most, but numerically, empirically, the most lopsided this league has ever been. There have now been, according to Tim Reynolds, 81 games this season decided by 30 or more points. It's a new single-season record, topping the mark of 80 last season. This is the new normal, correct? The new normal is there are going to be more blowout NBA basketball games than there have ever been. Is this a small sample to look at the 2 seasons and tell you 30-plus point victories are more common today and in the last 2 seasons than they've ever been? New normal, correct?
I mean, yeah, because, again, it goes back to what we talked about with Duke and UConn, which is when the three-point shot becomes more and more prevalent. And I'm telling you that your defense really does not have that much of an impact on whether they make or miss. Your defense has an impact on whether they take or not. then you have this kind of variability because you can go through a cold stretch and you can go through an incredibly hot stretch. Having said that, this one right here, this is for the books.
A 31-0 run.
I mean, look, I don't know how. I don't know how that's possible. I honestly don't know how that's possible. How do you get to that point of I'm going to score and not be scored on for that long of amount of time, for that amount of points? Like Tony said, you ain't get an offensive rebound, not even a tip back like one of these. Not even, hey, they got fouled kind of 40 feet from the basket, now they're in the penalty. Your level of basketball was so inept that you couldn't even manufacture a single free throw. That's next level.
What did you think of the NBA's anti-tanking proposals?
Oh,
They've obviously spent a lot of time thinking about this. They're trying to fix a problem that doesn't appear to have fixing. What are your thoughts on what it is that they submitted before the public?
Dan, this is what happens when you don't have a culture of vigorous debate internally, because you come up with ideas that are so preposterous. Let me go glass half full. The simplest idea they came up with is actually the best one, which is every team the 10 bad teams plus all the play-in teams, they all get into the lottery. The 10 bad teams, they divide 80% of the odds among them to get a top 5 pick. The 8 play-in teams, they divide the remaining 20%. And so it doesn't matter whether I win my play-in game or not. Doesn't matter whether I make playoffs or not. If I was one of these teams, I have a chance, and my chance is just as good as the other play-in teams. I like that. It's nice and simple. There's no risk of anyone saying I'd rather be a 7 than a 6 in order to have ping pong balls. It makes very clear the lines of delineation. Teams would rather be in the play-in and in the playoff than not, but you don't miss out completely. When you start to talk about, and we should include the teams that lost in the first round of the playoffs. Why? Or we should calculate how many wins you had the last 2 years, and if you had 14 wins, we'll say you had 20. I'm like, it cannot be something where I have to pull out a manual to explain to people why their team does or does not have a chance of getting into the lottery. And then the final one, and this one, I was like, yo, I would have laughed in the room if someone brought this up. We're going to have a lottery, and then we'll have another lottery. If you miss that lottery, we get another lottery at the 5x5. Like, these are insane. Like, and anytime these news stories come out, Dan, I always think the same thing. That's not only the stuff that made it through emails and conference calls and, like, spitballing in your office to the Board of Governors meeting. That's also the idea that they felt comfortable enough. Hey, Shams, these are our 3 ideas. Like, for that to be leaked, are they trying to prove to us, hey, we're trying our best? No, you're not. Not if that's one of the ideas and someone said, you know what? Put it on the list. No such thing as a bad idea.
But is that something to kind of get the temperature of what fans are thinking, fans are seeing, and be like, you know what? Like, that's something we were thinking about, but we're not going to do it because there's been such bad reaction to it?
I'll tell you what the temperature is. Sub-zero.
You think they're all bad? There's no. You've heard nothing. You've heard nothing good. Here.
I think the one where you include play-in teams into the lottery, albeit with smaller odds than the non-play-in teams. I think that's nice. It's simple. It makes sense, right? And it's easy to explain. I think all the other ones, not only are they overly complex, but I don't think they address the actual problem. And it's like going to the doctor and saying, I have a stomach ache. And he says, here, rub this on your forehead, this Vicks on your forehead. Like, no, but I have a stomach ache. Oh, no, you know what? Let me prescribe some Manjaro for you or whatever. Like,
Abuelas would say.
Vivaporu works. You know, if you're sick, you put it on your feet and then you put socks on. Takes it away.
My favorite tanking rule I saw proposed on Emotional Hoops, and it was by a fan that said what you should do is, based off the standings, You then draft opposing franchises that you think are going to be the worst the next season. And that links you to your pick for the next draft. So if you were the Pacers, for example, you have the worst record this season, right? You then enter the draft with the number 1 overall pick. And what your pick is I think the Jazz are going to be the worst team in basketball next year. And so your pick is attached to another franchise. So it totally disincentivizes tanking because your picks are not linked to your own franchise and their record. And it creates rivalries out of nowhere for a year.
I mean,
because
what is
you
that
think someone's going to be bad.
What is the look you're
what do you
giving
think?
him? I feel like.
What do you think about it?
Well, I'm looking at just his hand, right?
fun.
He's stoic and he's staring at your face, and I can't tell from the look of his face how he feels about what you were suggesting. But I watched him curl the microphone cord there, the headset cord, and the way he was using his hand there suggested to me that he hated your idea, that he hated that you were bringing that out in public.
The ball pit in the warning track of a baseball park idea, in comparison, feels like very sound.
You got it wrong.
That's crazy.
It was a trampoline warning track. The ball pit was on
you.
the other side of the fence.
Thank you.
So you fall
Had
in
to be
safety.
said.
Yeah.
Had to be said.
Jeremy, the thing is, you're the team. You go up there and you're like, we're gonna draft AJ DeBanza, but then also the Jazz.
Well, this year. You have to start it for 1 year with something like that. But realistically, then moving forward, all you would be doing
he just
is
said
going
your
to the next
idea
season.
was so bad.
And then he held
I mean,
up
not
a great
my
idea.
idea. I
though.
specifically told you where.
But
it
he
came
held
from.
up a great idea.
Ball pit is a great
The
idea.
trampoline ball pit. I mean, if it would make more sense if he had a bad idea.
Weren't there also lagoons in the outfield?
Yeah.
I like the warning track.
Every
as a
team
lagoon.
could put a pond wherever they want in the outfield.
Yeah, if you want that hazard there, go for it. Some
Can only-
teams opt for a sand
Can only
trap.
change once a series, though. You can't every game.
I'm glad you explained that.